right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about some motivation. We're going to talk about some meditation. We're going to talk about some inspiration. If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. We're going to get into some energy readings possibly here today. We're going to get into the fact that we need to focus. Want to invite you all on the different platforms, Anchor, Periscope, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As well as all of the other platforms that podcasts are being sent out on. So once again, you can reach out to me at motivationmeditationinspiration.yoga. So what we want to talk about today is how, since this is the first Anchor podcast that we have, I just want to start getting down to a little bit of the breakdown and how I started to get into videos and into speaking and how to start to get this type of thing going. So I've been doing a lot of with communications for the last few years. I've been doing meditation since I was 27 and I'm 34. Ended up having it where I cared about somebody more than I cared about myself. And I know a lot of us are in that type of place. You might be, I have people from here to India to Japan to Singapore to different parts of the world that actually do listen on my website and across the world. So I want to start taking some of the challenges that I went through, the ability that I utilized, and how I utilized my challenges to overcome them so that I might possibly help you to be able to focus to the point where you're able to ask yourself the question that I ask myself every day. Now, that first question that I ask myself is, what is it that I'm doing today? Is it bringing me motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. So I started to study into it. I started to look into what does it mean to be motivated? What does it mean to put yourself in a place where you're utilizing your mentality, where you're utilizing the ability that you have inside of yourself? And it started coming down with values. Started realizing that a lot of other people were blaming somebody else instead of doing it for themselves. Instead of sitting inside of themselves, instead of putting themselves in a place where they're utilizing their level of mentality, where they're utilizing their level of being, their level of purpose. And so I started to recognize back to where I had to circle around when I was working at a call center. I worked for a call center for about 3.5 years. Then I did car sales for 2.5 years, and I overdraw Uber for 5 years. So I started to notice that the positive and negatives that were going on around me started to come back as results. The ratings, the things that people were doing, the challenges that I was going through personally, and the people that were a part of my every single day. So I started to put myself in a place where I started to work for 50, 60 hours a week for Chrysler, and I started to read their index, their back end, and their support to help salesmen out. Now, as I was sitting there, I started to look at it and started to say, hey, look, why don't you schedule? Why don't you put yourself on a page where you start to become accountable for the time that you spend, for the challenges that you go through, for the things that you want to achieve? And so as I was sitting there, I started marking everything down. I started realizing that to get inwards is the actual ability to understand yourself. It's the ability to sit down with yourself and to allow the things that are not meant for you to move out of the way on their own. And so how can we start utilizing that? How can we start putting ourselves on a page where what we're focusing into, we are actually starting to overcome? How can we start to put ourselves into the ability to focus to the point where we overcome our challenges? And at that time, the challenge that I was facing off against was car sales. I wanted to actually start to understand that. I wanted to light up for other people. I wanted to find that part inside where blush actually comes from, the actual ability to blush. How do we blush? Where does that feature come from? And so as I was seeking that out, as I was seeking out the ability to grow, I started to recognize that we are a part of this universe, that when we utilize this universe has the ability to use the gifts, the tools, and the mentality that you have. The mentality inside of your ability, the mentality inside of your being. And so as I was going through that, as I was investing my time, I was slowly losing who I was, slowly losing the ability for the things that were making me who I am inside. So I had to sit down. I started to have to write the things down that I wanted to have, the things that I wanted to achieve, the dreams that I wanted to overcome. And so as I was sitting there, as I was thinking, as I was putting myself in a place where, how do you start to do that? I started to recognize these little things. I started to recognize these little things that I was doing. And I know that each of us have habits, and we have things that we do, and we have rituals that we go through on a daily basis. The coffee or the tea, or the things that you look for inside of yourself, the things that you're looking to achieve, and the patterns in which you're doing that. So I started to work more and more hours. I went from selling cars for 50, 60 hours a week to selling cars for 50, 60 hours a week and driving 35 to 40 hours a week. Now, as I continued to do that, I recognized no matter the challenges I was facing off against, the energy that was being spent, the mentality that was in place was what mattered the most. So in other words, if you are having a hard situation, if you are going through a hard time, if you're going through challenges in your life and they're in a place where you're searching for your level of mentality, for your level of ability inside of yourself, you got to start asking yourself the question, how do you utilize it? How are you putting that skill that you have to the ability to be utilized on a daily basis? And this is where that piece came in. It came in when I started to sit down with myself on a daily, when I was going through these type of challenges, when I was putting myself in that type of place. What do you do when you finish working for a dealership for 16 hours? Do you get in the car? Do you drive? What puts you in the place to focus through your challenges? And this is what I started to realize. This is what I really want to share with you. Those things that you learned in school, the ability to write, the ability to take notes, those abilities to study, to actually study, they can be applied, my friends. They can actually be applied in your life. They can be applied in studying yourself. They can be applied in it starting to give you time, the time to hear this kind of message, the time to get to that place where your mentality starts to come out, where your ability inside of you starts to radiate, where it starts to actually open up, where what you're going through, you have the ability to overcome. And so this is how I started to do that. I started to put it down in front of me. I started to write down the things that I wanted to achieve. What was it that you want? Do you want a paid off car? Do you want what is it that you want in your life? What is it that you're going through? What are the challenges that you're facing off against today? And how do you use your mentality? And so I started to recognize that when we put ourselves in a place where we're using positivity, where we're utilizing the ability inside of ourselves, when we're utilizing our level of mentality, it doesn't mean the challenge won't come. It means that you can see the challenge is bringing you closer to yourself. And so this was very interesting when I was facing off against the fact that I had a wife of 8 years, that she was about to go off and start to focus on her own dreams, her own goals, her own manifestation, that I could do that as well. That I could start to believe in myself, that I could start to put myself in a place where the mentality, and this is the type of thing that I want to share with you. If you're in a profession, if you're in a relationship, or you're going through a challenge, this message is definitely for you. It's for that person who is choosing that they're going to start to pick themselves up, that the values inside of themselves, okay, the things that you're putting together, the people that are a part of your life, the people that are part of your being, so some people call that your circle, your inner circle, those people that you manifest your reflections outwards from, are going to actually start becoming a part of you. And that is what this is about. It's about focusing to that kind of a place where what you're utilizing inside of yourself starts to come out. And so how do you start to do that? And so I started to write stuff down. I started to put it on paper in front of myself. I started to ask myself as I was sleeping in my van. I slept in my van for 2 months. As I was in the van, I was in a place where, I first loved somebody else more than I loved myself. I was trying to figure out how I can figure out how to do this, that if I could figure out how to make it through this, that possibly I might be able to help you as well. that if this challenge came, I started to realize that it's not selfish to be yourself. That in fact, when you have nothing more, and you're not taking from anybody by being yourself, my friends, by searching out your mentality, by searching out the ability that you have, by focusing to that point, to the point where you have nothing less and nothing more than you. That is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what type of hobbies do you want to do? What type of things? Where do you want to go? What do you want to dream? What places do you want to achieve in your life? What type of things do you want to go through? And I started to notice as I was delivering food, I was meditating inside the sauna, and I was inside the sauna breaking through that kind of a challenge, like the kind where you have nothing more and nothing less than yourself. And I had recognized that as I was delivering food, as I was putting myself in the sauna, as I was washing my clothes by hand, that what I was doing was organizing my mentality to move forward, organizing the ability inside of oneself to start to achieve. And I want you to see this in your homes. I want you to see this in your professions. Today might be the first day that you have to iron your clothes. Today might be the first day that you might be told that you have to find a new position. Are we seeking out positions that not just meet the employer, but they also meet your dreams? They also meet your goals. That when you're with them, that, like I remember selling cars. And as I was selling cars, one of my friends asked me, do you want to be the manager? And I said, I don't want a position unless I earn it. And the reason why I said that, the reason why I said that is because my mentality is so focused on the tasks that I achieve, the things that I focus into, the challenges that I go through, that I could bypass 5 hours of meditation inside of a sauna, that the heat on the outside isn't as great as what's going on inside. Now, that's the type of question that we should be asking ourselves. Why do a lot of people not do that? And that's where I started to recognize that they needed what I had, that the gifts, the tools, the mentality that I'm utilizing is there. I've heard a lot of people talk about wanting things to the point where you're willing to die for them. And it's kind of in a way in which when I reached that point where I was willing to die to achieve it, that's where the barrier lays on the other side of that. The other side of your challenges lays your mentality. It lays your level of focus. It lays your challenges that you have the ability to overcome. And so how do you start to do that? How do you start to focus into that and allow that stuff to leave? And that's when I heard what Oprah Winfrey's mantra was. I heard that Oprah Winfrey was sitting down and she started to study. She started to listen to philosophy. She started supposedly to listen to these things. And as I was listening to her masterclass, another podcast, by the way, which is a really excellent podcast I recommend, she talked about how she is driven by Newton's third law. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what does this have to do with me? How can I use this? How can I put myself into the mentality? How can I give myself the ability to focus to that point where I'm utilizing that kind of thing? And I started to listen. And as I was listening, I'm trying like, okay, what is it that she's saying that I might be able to share with other people one day? What is it that allowed her to gain universal wealth in a way in which she did? And so I'm sitting here and I'm listening to it. And she starts to explain that she started to recognize and she started to identify with the positive forces in the universe. For each action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I started to see the simplicity in that. I started to see that it's possible that when you see the things that are coming against you, that you have the ability to overcome those challenges. Now, if you're seeking companionship, if you're out there and you might possibly have had a challenge like I did, if you are seeking out a person to seek out you for you, seek out positivity. Where is your focus, in other words? So that's where I started to recognize writing stuff down really had a meaning, okay? And what I mean by this meaning was that what I was writing down, I needed to identify with. I needed to be completely honest with myself. When the things weren't perfect, I needed to write it down. I needed to revisit it and start to seek out how to turn it positive, how to put it in such a way that what is being utilized can be utilized on a daily basis. And so at that point, I started to realize, okay, what really matters is positive and negative forces. Is this a positive thing? Am I bringing myself in a positive direction? Is it what I'm doing today? Is exactly what I'm doing today? Is it bringing me towards things that are allowing the things that are able to leave my life are not meant for me to open up space for positivity, space for mentality? And that's when I shut off the radio while I was driving. And as I was delivering food, I started to listen to other motivational speakers, such as Les Brown. Okay, that's the one who truly motivates me, such as Grant Cardone, talking about dominating your mentality, such as David Goggins, connecting the body and the mind, which later in this first podcast, this first series of the new networks that I've connected into, I will go into that. I will connect where David Goggins and me actually connect on a certain level. But first, I want to go into a little bit of story. Growing up, I didn't have the perfect education. I didn't have the ability to learn how to read until I was 17. I sat down, I read a Steve Reeves book. In 24 hours, I went into school, and I went from a 4th grade reading level to an 8th grade comprehension, and later with a 12th grade comprehension. So definitely I have the education. I have the mentality. And I started to recognize that the top 1%, okay, and this is for you if you want to be the best in your professions, okay, they learn how to say no, okay? They don't take on too many tasks. They master the tasks that they have in front of themselves. They go from a place where the rat race is, where a lot of people see a lot of things, they're trying to do multiple things, and then they specialize in what they take on. They take on fewer tasks, and they put their complete focus into it into a positive way, where if it isn't positive, it moves out of the way, or they find a way to not allow that type of thing to be around them. So I was seeing this as I was working at Chrysler, as I was working with other people, as I was putting myself in the car, as I was driving and washing my own clothes, guys. Okay, I was sleeping in my van. For 2 months I slept in my van. Okay, so as I was going through that, and that was during the time in which my wife had left me. Okay, so as I was working through those kind of challenges, I was building inside the ability to see that focus is positivity. Focusing into the things that bring your attention, bring your energy. And I started to see that emotion. I'm going to end quote Robert Kiyosaki. Energy in motion is emotion. Okay? I want you to recognize that the E stands for energy. How are you using your action in your emotion? Your knowledge, your level of focus inside of yourself, or are you holding yourself back from your own energy, from your own ability inside of yourself? What is it that you focus into? Some of us might be like trying to diet. Some of us might be trying to speak. Some of us might be trying to perfect our crafts. And that's what happens to singers. First they start singing. Then they go out and they do concerts. Then it takes time, and sometimes it takes years to perfect your craft. Sometimes it takes years to reach the place where other people see that as a reflection, where other people start to identify with your mentality. And that's where I started to ask myself the questions. Am I listening to positivity? Is what I'm listening to today bringing energy out of me? Is it bringing me closer to movement within one's being, movement within one's energy, movement within one's purpose? And that's when I couldn't help it. I had to start talking. I started putting out videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And now I have them on podcasts as well. because they're definitely important. Your mentality gives you the ability to overcome your challenges. They give you the ability to become the tool. They give you the ability for them to seek you out in your professions as the top. But it's the person who is willing to sit down and focus to that level, who's willing to fail until they succeed, to get that note before they break the ice, before the professional starts to show up, the one who has to go through the 1,000 times through the script, the 1,000 times through the walkarounds. Okay, I'm talking about car sales here. I'm talking about telesales. I'm talking about any place you're looking to succeed, whatever you're looking to succeed in. It takes failures, my friends. So are you embracing those challenges? Are you putting yourself in a place where you are succeeding as you're failing, where your challenges are bringing you closer to positivity, where that no is bringing you closer to that yes? And as you help other people, as you put yourself as a tool in the universe, that universe will start utilizing the tools, the gifts, the talents that you have. And so I see motivational speakers out there, they're talking and focusing, and they're getting the yields from years and years of mentality. They're getting the yields from years and years of the ability inside of themselves to focus to the point that they get that point. They get that promotion. They get that ability inside of themselves. They get that companionship. When was the last time you picked up a paper and pen and started to study the people that are around you? Started to study how they react, how they utilize you, how you are a gift, how the Most High made you. When is the last time you utilized this universe? As Einstein stated, become friends with the universe. Look at the massive technology he created that was designed even to the point where it's recognized within the universe. Okay, so are we using that kind of mentality? Are we using the ability that we are both mass and energy? Are we creating that kind of vibration? And you see, it's what you think in your mind. It's where you focus your energy to that starts to radiate outwards. You can start to see the equations from your mentality as a vibration outwards. And there are ways to be able to test that. There's ways to be able to prove that. There's ways to actually be able to see that kind of energy. So the questions that I have for you guys, are you identifying with how your energy flows? Okay, the emotion of your energy, the motion of your ability. Are you starting to find that place where movement is happening because you came along, because you started your journey, because you are on your path, because you have your ability inside of yourself to overcome your challenges? And so this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about focusing to the point where we utilize our challenges, where we utilize our handicaps to our advantage, where our level of focus gives us the ability to overcome those challenges. And so it's not what other people are facing off against, it's what's going on inside of you. It's where your mentality is. It's when, if we took you to a tunnel and we dropped you in a dark tunnel and we told you you had to get up, what is it that you're going to go through? What is it that you're going to put your mentality into? What is it that is going to start to work in your way? How do you start to overcome those type of challenges? And how do you start to make it through those kinds of challenges? So, you're going to start to have fear. You're going to start to have emotion. You're going to start to feel a little pain if you have to walk a couple miles. But if you start to see the tunnel, if you start to focus to the point where I am going to get up, I am going to move, I am going to bypass the E, and I'm going straight for the emotion, then you're going to find the energy in that E. Then you're going to find that energy in that person, in that place inside of yourself where it's not hotter than you are. That's why the most attractive trait on the face of the planet, my friends, if you want to dominate your being, hear what I'm saying. The most attractive trait on the face of the planet is focus. The reason why the most attractive trait on the face of the planet is focus is because as you focus, as you put yourself in a place where you're utilizing your gifts, the ability for negativity to move out of the way starts to happen. That means positivity starts seeking you out. Positive things start happening in your life. Positive things start happening in your mentality. And so we got to allow those types of things. And that is one of the most difficult things to do, because when you start to allow the things that aren't meant for you to move out of the way on their own, you will have pains. You will have emotions. You will have fears. And you will have the ability to make it through them if you give yourself the ability to focus into a positive path to identify why those things need to leave your life, why those things need to have their space, and not to move them out, but to let them move out on their own. And so when you allow your mentality to have the ability inside of yourself, the universe isn't just going to yield those things to you. It's going to take you being heated up. It's going to take you being tested. It's going to take day in, day out. And this is the reason why writing stuff down is important. The reason why writing it down is important is because what you put in front of yourself, what you achieve. I'm going to go ahead and give you another motivational speaker's quote. This is Steve Harvey's quote. He stated that he did not achieve because he did not ask. Steve Harvey, if you're hearing this right now, if you're hearing this message, recognize, okay? I'll be happy to be on a couple of those different shows talking about these kind of mentality, talking about this kind of ability. But we have not because we ask not. So what are you asking the universe? What are you putting out there? What are you writing down? What are you putting in a place where, like Will Smith says, once I've already put it there, it's going to come into fruition. When you believe in yourself, when you believe in your mentality, when you start to put yourself in a place where it starts to reflect outwards from within yourself, you got to start seeking out positivity. That's the reason, that's the how, that's the reason Oprah Winfrey got where she was, because she sat in front of the mantra every single day. See, my mantra is different. The mantra that drives me, that brings me closer to a place of focus, okay, is the law of riches. It means when I share with others, when I help others, the universe yields back, okay, in ways which I understand they will come. Are you using the words that drive you? Are you using the purposes? Are you using the path that you're on? How do you utilize your level of focus? What do you focus into? What are you focusing on? How are you making it through your challenges? Is it through speaking? Is it through singing? Is it through listening? You know, there's so many ways to use your focus, your gifts, that you got to allow the things that aren't meant for you to move out of the way on their own. And so this is the place where we start to head inwards. This is the part where I've already talked about focus for 30 minutes, the exercise that I do on a daily basis on my YouTube channel, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, and on my podcast as well. Motivation, meditation, inspiration.yoga. Now that's the first part. That's how you start getting motivated in your life. You start getting to that kind of mentality where you start to utilize your focus to the place where you revisit your challenges, where your challenges no longer have the place where pain, emotion, or fear have the ability to stop you. They start to turn into lessons. And this is where the second part of this speech comes in. The second part is self-study. It's the ability to get inwards. once you start to see those type of challenges on the outside are no longer having the ability to crush you, now we got to start working on self-esteem. The ability inside of oneself to have stamina. The ability inside of oneself to be patient. The ability inside of oneself to sit down and start to go inwards. To start to utilize your breath, to utilize your being, to utilize your mastery to the point where what is going on inside of yourself starts to create a magnitude where that reflection that's radiating is meditation. So how do we start to do that? We must start understanding that E. We must start understanding the energy inside of you is real. How do you start to get it into motion? Get it emotion. How do we get that energy inside of yourself to become the student? And the answer is in school. Not going back to school. I don't mean going back to school. I mean using the skills that you had in school. Being at a point where you're willing to be a student in your life, where you're willing to start to seek out the whole entire situation in your challenges. This is where the embracing of the challenges starts to become possible. Inside of self-study, inside of self-being, inside of self-purpose. And so a lot of people say the closest thing is self-love. They're forgetting that that emotion came from knowledge that came from your level of focus, okay? So how do we start getting inwards? So we start overcoming our emotions, we start overcoming our pains, and we start overcoming our fears. And the answer to that question is by studying the energy inside of yourself. Sitting down, one of those ways is with meditation. Okay, what meditation is teaching you to do is it's teaching you to still yourself and to start to open up to you, to sit down and become a student inside of your classroom. That's when other people see self-study as a reflection of meditation. So you have two parts. You have an inwards breath. Are you connecting with that part of yourself? When you go into your professions, are you breathing and taking a breath and closing your eyes and imagining how it's going to happen? Are you spending that kind of time to give yourself that kind of ability to where what happens becomes a reflection because you can manifest it in your life? That's the reason why it's important, because you can manifest becoming that top salesman, gaining that acceptance by your companion, gaining that acceptance in your profession. You can imagine that before it even happens. And this happened to me as well. I got in a car accident in San Diego. I displaced both of my hips, threw my vertebrae in the center out of place, and elongated my neck. I walked into a chiropractor's office, and the chiropractor, 5th-generation chiropractor, told me he had never seen somebody with a back as bad as mine. Okay? I looked at the chiropractor, said, "You have so many strains in your back that I've never seen somebody with this much pain." I didn't allow it to stop me, my friends. And this is where David Goggin comes in. Once one connects their body and their mind together, impossible things become possible. You wouldn't have thought that after 17 chiropractic visits, I was meditating on the beach in Pacific Beach, I was running 6 miles a day, and I was body surfing. Okay? It was because I was willing to sit down and use what I'm talking to you about today. I was willing to find what was going on inside, where that breath came from, where that story came from, where that page came from, where that accident came from. If we're not willing to study ourselves, then let me ask you a question. What was school worth? What was it worth to sit, to read, to write, to speak? What was it worth for you to learn how to do that, unless it was meant for you to apply it in your life, like I had to? Okay, I am a walking proof that it's possible to overcome your pains by allowing them to find that breath, to find that chapter that might have held you back. And a lot of people use lifting weights for this. Exercise is a great way of meditation. Okay? There are many different ways. In the yogic community, meditation is known as breath to body work. Now, there is also body to breath work, which is when you apply the body with the breath, when the connection comes from the body first to the breath. So what you can achieve in your mind, Andrew Carnegie recognized this. What you achieve in your mind, you can achieve. You can manifest it. You can start to sit down and understand your stories inside of yourself. You can start to understand that this had to happen so you could be where you are. You could start to embrace your knowledge. You could start to find the center where that student inside of yourself starts to open up to that teacher. And you see, a lot of people started to seek me out because of that. They started to seek me out. In fact, I started to work with a girl with stage 4 metastasized cancer who had learned that there was such thing as good or bad. One of the worst things that our society has done is teach that good and bad exist. When on a universal aspect, the choice comes from positivity. The biblical, which structures the thing, comes from a quote biblically that in the beginning, God saw that light was good. They forget that God divided the light from the darkness before making that choice. Let me ask you this same question. What are you putting your choices into? Are they positive things? Are you utilizing the structure of your mentality to understand your challenges? To stop to poison yourself with upsetment, which is an emotion. To stop poisoning yourself with fears and the challenges that you go through. So how do we start to get there? We've got to give ourselves patience. We got to sit down inside and be willing to take the time to study ourselves, to get to observe our own lives, to start to recognize that your journey is a beautiful thing, that your challenges are beautiful things, that you can overcome your challenges from being who you are in the inside. We got to break this thing that says that we got to change, my friends. You don't have to change. When everything is taken away from you, when all you are is you, when all you have is yourself, you got to find you. There's a lot of people who lose their beacon. And this might be the part of meditation where the growth happens. They lose their ability to see who they are in the inside, to start to identify with that. There's a lot of people, they come to me asking me, how do I overcome smoking, Marcel? How does it become possible to do that? And this is how. It only becomes possible once you decide it's not a positive force in your world. Once you start to know the knowledge inside that it's not that what you want to be brought in your direction, that the lesson inside of you starts to open up. And so we can apply this in other areas of our lives. We can put this into the ways in which we seek out things in our day, the ways in which we seek out things in our weeks, our months, our years. And we can truly allow the things around us to be the thing that changes, because we can never change from being ourselves. And that is the hardest trait on the face of the planet to work with. The hardest trait on the face of the planet to work with is self-honesty, because that is where the ability for positivity and movement starts to happen. And it takes a place where you're broken down to that point for it to open up, where you hit your rock bottom, where you hit the point where all you have is yourself, where everything starts to become stripped from you, that growth starts to open up, that the understanding that you are a blessing on the face of the planet, where you have a purpose on the face of this planet, where you have a path, that your journey is a beautiful thing, starts to open up, that the light inside of you starts to radiate. You know, isn't it interesting? People start to call a person who is with a light inside inner lightened. Have we even broken down the word enlightened? Inner light, my friends. Where is your inner light? Where is your dominating your being? Where is your light in this world where people see you and they see a special thing on the face of the planet? They see beauty. They see strength. They see emotion. They see meditation. They see inspiration just from you being yourself. You working in your hobbies. You working in your crafts. You working in your professions. So let's go ahead and connect them. Let's get that focus going. Let's get that knowledge centered at a point where you become the classroom. A point where when you're going through things, the challenges that you're facing off against start using your focus. And it starts using your knowledge. And people start to see you as a reflection of motivation. They start to see what you're doing as a reflection of meditation. And they start to see what you're doing is called discipline. It's not a date. It doesn't take one day to become disciplined. It takes the day in, day out grind. If you would like to watch my videos, you can reach out to my networks, Motivation, Meditation, Inspiration. You can reach me on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, podcasts across. You can see my website, Motivation, Meditation, Inspiration.yoga. You can start to put yourself in a place. Put yourself in a place where you're seeing that message radiating light outwards. Put yourself in a place where you're utilizing your ability. That, see, just like that Periscope says, God bless you. See, that's the thing. Let me show you something that's just not about this minute. It's not just about this minute. I breathe motivation. I breathe meditation. But do you see that last word there on my shirt? And eventually I will have shirts like these available for you all to grab and to purchase. Motivation, meditation, inspiration. When I was sleeping in my van, when I had nobody, when my companion had abandoned me, okay? That's the thing I ask myself every day. I ask myself, is what I'm doing today, is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? Because if it's not one of the three, I don't want it. When do we start to see our level of discipline? When do we start to become that kind of light for other people? When do we use those kind of challenges? And that's the type of thing I started to see. I started to see people that I was driving around lacked self-love. Okay, I drove 14,000 customers for Uber and Lyft. 14,000 people I drove. Okay, I've spoken to over 100,000 people. I've been the top salesman, every other month for 2.5 years, as well as driving 35 to 40 hours a week. I was working 100 hours a week. It's because what I'm telling you works. What I'm telling you can get you the top in your professions. It can get you the top in your homes. It can get you to the place where your companions seek you. When they seek out your level of mentality, when you're willing to continue, when you're not allowed to give that place where the education stops you. Okay? Let me go ahead and tell you a little story that might inspire you all now. When I was working for Chrysler, I couldn't even spell on the credit application. Okay? It took me 2 months to be able to do a credit application. I had to use Google. I had to use things. I had to spell on Google to get the spelling right to put it on the credit application. By the time I was starting to get to become that top salesman that I was, other people were seeking out me to learn how to do the credit application properly, because it might take you 2 times longer, as David Goggins says. You might have to write more times than other people would. You might have to speak 3 times the amount that other people would. You might have to believe in yourself. It might take you 2 years, 3 years to learn how to do what you want to become. And I saw those motivational speakers who Chrysler got together. I look forward to the day when I'm invited to go speak for those people, when I'm there to help them to master their own level of study, to master their own being, to master their own purpose. I'm grateful for the team that I worked with at Chrysler. And I had a wonderful manager named Philip, who ended up working with me with the challenges that I had. Guys, you're not going to be able to do everything. It's when you use what you have that the light starts to show up. It's when you're asked the question, do you want a separate position from the one you have, that you say, no, I want to earn the position. If I'm given a position, it's because I am the one that's right for the position. And this is the type of question we got to ask ourselves on a daily basis. We got to ask ourselves, is what we're going through, is what you're facing off against, is where you're focusing your knowledge being applied in your life? Are the people, the places that you're going, the professions, are they connected to you? How are they connected to you? Do they value you? Do you value them? So how do we start to get there? We got to connect that focus and that knowledge. We got to start recognizing that we are the classroom, that the theory of relativity, that mass and energy are interchangeable. You can see your mass being you. You can see your energy being utilized. Are you seeing the interchange? A lot of us see this as a paycheck. We see this as universal yield. When is it becoming a universal yield? When is it going beyond the paycheck? When is it going to the point where you start to increase and other people start to seek you out, where you start to inspire other people just from you coming along, just from you being a part of their life, from you being a part of their being, from your level of focus inside of yourself where you believe in who you are? See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about overcoming your challenges. I'm talking about not bringing people down, but uplifting people by being yourself. I'm talking about putting yourself in a place where you have the ability to overcome your challenges. And it's a level of focus inside of ourselves that a lot of people have lost. We've allowed society to stop us. We've allowed fast, slow. So I'm going to share another story here. If you want the universe to have that kind of yield for you, you got to find a way for your focus and your knowledge to do as Michael Phelps did. Michael Phelps was known to swim 2 to 3 times the amount of laps as any other swimmer. 2 to 3 times the amount of laps as any other Olympic swimmer. It might take you 3 times longer to do that. It might take you 3 times longer to achieve your dreams. Okay? He wouldn't be there if he gave up. If he didn't know that it's going to take him wanting to die to reach that stage. The willingness to push yourself when other people give up is what I'm talking about. The connection with your mind and your body to the point where you believe that your energy has an emotion that you're centered within your being, that your focus, your purpose has the ability inside of oneself to overcome the challenge. And it starts to happen slowly. It starts to happen on a daily basis. It starts to happen with a level of discipline. It starts to happen to where other people start to see you. They will become inspired because you came along, because you're here, because you embrace your challenges, because you embrace your being, because you're focused to the point where you have the ability. And that might be in your diet. That might be in your homes. That might be in your relationships. That might be in your professions. See what I'm saying? They're all connected with your energy. They're all connected to that E. They're connected to that place where it's asking you, are you getting motion? Are you moving? Are you moving your being? You're putting yourself, are you getting out there? Are you walking? Are you running? If you want to get in shape, are you putting in the time that the results are starting to come out? When you know that knowledge and focus become applied, are you putting yourself at a pace where other people start to become inspired? Where other people start to see you, where they start to see what you're going through, they start to see your challenges, and they start to recognize that you can do it. You can achieve it. You can become it. And I might be that person that you might be seeing this reflection right now. You might be seeing that your journey is starting to have a page, that your energy is starting to have a purpose. And that's the purpose of emotions, my friend. They're meant to drive you towards positivity. They're meant to free you, to teach you lessons, to help you to grow, to help you to be who you are on the inside, to manifest your being, to manifest your purpose, to manifest a reflection of your own level of understanding, your own level of purpose, your own level where your path and your journey centers you, where the energy inside of you starts to put you in motion. And a lot of people call that action. They call that place where they see that person really makes moves. They see that person really starts to make things happen. They start to see that that person has the ability inside of themselves to focus to a point where they believe in themselves, where they're not held back by their challenges, where they don't have the ability to stop them because they are so focused that the knowledge frees itself, where they become disciplined, where focus and knowledge become centered within yourself, where you're no longer beating yourself up about your challenges. Instead, you're using your challenges. And that's what happened to the person that I am inside when I started to see that no matter what was going on around me, no matter what challenges I might be going through, no matter what challenges I might be facing off against, no matter what challenges I might be faced off against, I'm going to find a way to use my focus and my knowledge. And I'm going to find a way to become disciplined in positivity. Hear what I'm saying? That's got to inspire you to be yourself. I want you to see that reflection of inspiration. I want you to see yourselves as beautiful. I want you to see your being, your human being has a purpose. Your human being has a path. It has a journey. It's up to you to dominate in that part of yourself. And that is the thing I learned from Grant Cardone. You got to dominate your being. You got to truly be the one inside of yourself who believes in you. And that's what Bruce Lee understood. Bruce Lee understood that yet there's one family under the stars, and that is to be a human being. When are we human beings? When do we start to bring positivity towards other people? Positivity in such a way that other people start to overcome their addictions. They start to overcome their pains. They start to overcome their fears. Can we bring positivity towards other people? Can we become a blessing within the universe? Can the reflection of what I'm saying radiate across the face of the planet? Can it start to uplift you? Can it start to bring you to believe in yourself? Can it start to bring you to see the blessings that you have inside of yourself? Can this message be brought across the universe? And I see that this universe was created in such a way that we are a blessing. You truly are a blessing. You truly started a journey. You are on your path. You have your purpose. Are you embracing that? Are you putting yourself in a place where you're using the simplicity that we're taught in school? That when you see that you are the best writers, are you writing? When you see your best speakers, are you speaking? When you see that you're the best singers, the best at your positions, are you bringing 100% game? Are you dominating within your being? When they seek out that person for that type of thing, they know that you're doing the best at it because you're utilizing your energy, your emotion, your knowledge, your focus, your discipline to the point where you are centered within yourself, where your mass and your energy is interchangeable to the point where the universe will yield it back to you, where you don't have to take things from other people. You don't have to take things from other people. There's so much universal wealth, okay? In this universe, there is so much wealth that we are yet but a part of the process of it, okay? When I see other motivational speakers out there that have achieved high levels of success, I know that my day is coming, okay? I put this grind down on a daily basis. I feel joy for their level of focus to the point where the universe yielded for them. You hearing what I'm saying? I embrace these type of challenges that are bringing me closer to that type of mentality. That's why I feel like I'm in the snow by myself and all the sled dogs are behind me, because I want you to cut through the universe in that way. I want you to be able to achieve your dreams, your goals. I want you to truly find that place where you're willing to achieve them to the point where the part that's not inside of you that's bringing that close to you dies. Where you truly become yourself, where you truly start to speak your mind, where you truly start to be who you are on the inside. And so that is where we start to get to that place. That is why it's about motivation. It's about meditation, and it's most definitely about helping other people, about using your place of discipline, about using your level of practice, about using your mentality, using your level of focus, that we get to the place where the reflection inside of us starts to radiate with a light of inspiration. Guys, it's not when you're disciplined that it matters the most. It's when the universe starts to use your level of discipline. It's when you're so disciplined that people recognize you for your gifts. People recognize you for your ability to overcome your challenges. People recognize you for your mentality. And we've seen these people across the face of the planet. They've been your singers. They've been your writers. They've been your artists. And it's up to you to embrace it. Okay? Your time will come if you're willing to put your mind to it. If you're willing to grind at it. If you're willing to work, it might take you 2 times longer, 3 times longer. You might have to give away sales to get to the place where you learn how to do your credit applications. You might have to do it 3 times longer to reach that place of education. People might have more equipment than you. They might have more technology than you. They might have more skill than you. But if you're willing to sit down and to continue to grind, to continue to find the place of discipline, to spend the time where you open your mind, where you open your mentality, where you open your being inside of who you are, if you truly start to do that, if you truly start to find that place inside of yourself, then maybe then you might become like Michael Phelps, who achieved more than 1, more than 2 gold medals. He achieved a mentality in a place where he became known as one of the world's greatest athletes to have ever walked on the face of the planet. I want you all to achieve that. I want you all to see that you can do that for yourself. I want you to all become that kind of light on the face of the planet. The one where Bruce Lee was talking about. When he explained that when he throws a punch, he's got to put his whole self into it. Guys, that meant a lot more for me. What that meant for me was that he understood that the whole entire being, the inwards breath and the outwards breath, had to be connected at that point where that connection was. That's what Bruce Lee meant. That we are ignoring our own purpose. We're not becoming a part of our being. We're not finding our places of discipline. We're not finding our places where our degree of mentality starts to radiate light outwards. And it's when we find that place, inside of ourselves, when we get into the professions that we're looking to do and people start to seek out your mentality. And they start to seek out your ability inside of yourself. They start to seek out you. They start to seek out who you are on the inside. That's when you start to radiate light outwards. That's when your reflection starts to come out. That's when people start to see you as an inspiration. That's when they start to utilize you. That's when you become the best in your profession. That's when you become the best singer, writer, author, analyzer, anything that you're going through. Because this is for the person in New York. This is for the person in Portugal. This is the person in Spain, Brazil, across the globe. I see you on my WordPress. I see you on those different platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, Instagram, all of those different platforms, my friend. I'm here to uplift you. I want you to see that you have a purpose, that you have a path, that your journey is worth it, that when you achieve your dreams, not only do you become successful, not only do the universe start to yield to you, but you also inspire other people to uplift themselves through their challenges. And that's what it's about. It's about that law of riches, that when you give to other people, you receive more in return. And so as this gets ready to close, as this first hour of motivation, meditation, and inspiration, the first Periscope, the first podcast gets released, I hope that the more than anything in this world, that it uplifts you to be yourself, uplifts you to see the beauty inside of yourself. As I close, I just want to say blessings to you all.